Hey everyone, welcome back. So this is part 2 of the cozy baby hoodie. Okay, so at this point we should have the length done. Now I do have one sleeve ready just for the showing. Okay, so girls length about 22 centimeters in length from the armhole. Okay, so I'm at about 23. Absolutely perfect, approximately there. Okay, a little bit longer than on the chart. And the boys cardigan that I'm making was about 17 centimeters in length. And I am at 17, plus I'm gonna have the crab stitch at the bottom. Okay, so approximately like that. Okay, so part 2 we are going to start with the sleeves. Okay, so get ready. And because we have finished on different rows, okay, so you might have your last row on the sleeve right here as the V-stitch with the puff stitch, or you might have it as loops right here. So I'm going to show you both ways. I'm going to show the first, I will show you how to start the row with the loops. So if you have the V-stitch, if you finish with a V-stitch, I'll show you how to start with the loops. And then I will show you how to start if you have the loops and you need to do the V-stitch. Okay, so grab your yarn. And it's very easy to start with the V-stitch. Sorry, I have my yarn has got all tangled up. Okay, I think I've got it. No, I don't. Okay, got it. Okay, so you want to start with a slip knot, and now you want to make sure that the first row, so it's a V-stitch row, okay, so you want to make sure that you have the puff stitch on the right and then the double crochet, okay, just so that we know that it's the right side of the cardigan and we are doing the correct pattern. Okay, so when you look at your sleeve, you want the puff stitch to be on the right, then chain 1 and double crochet, not the other way around. Okay, you don't want to have a double crochet, chain 1 and a puff stitch, so just like that. Okay, so we're going to connect at the very bottom. Okay, at the very bottom. Pull through, and we will start each row with chaining 2, 1 and 2. Now our first row is on the inside of the sleeve, so we're gonna go like this. Okay, so hopefully you still have your stitch markers in. Okay, so you want to make your first loop before the stitch marker. Okay, so you have your first V-stitch, then you have the space with the stitch marker, and then that double crochet where we have connected. So you want to make your first loop in the top of that double crochet. Okay, so see, this is the V-stitch, this is where the stitch marker is, and this is this double crochet where we have connected. Okay, so that double crochet, I'm gonna go in there and make a single crochet, chain 3 and single crochet back in there. Then you want to skip over that space where your stitch marker is and go right into the chain 1 space with a V-stitch, and just continue your normal pattern, a loop into every chain 1 space. And just like that, keep going until you get to your next stitch marker. Okay, so the last V-stitch before the stitch marker, and after the stitch marker you have that double crochet where we have connected right here. So anywhere in it, make the last loop. So single crochet, chain 3 and single crochet. Okay, so you want to have a loop before the stitch marker and a loop after the stitch marker. All the rest you just use that pattern. Okay, so after you make the last one, you're gonna find that chain 2 where you have started. You're gonna go in it or under it, doesn't really matter, and slip stitch. Then you're going to chain 2, and the next row is the normal V-stitch row. Give me a second. I will do 2 rows on this one, and the rest is the same. Okay, so you can jump in after I make 2 rows. Okay, so I'll do a puff stitch row, a V-stitch row, and a loop stitch row, and then the rest will be exactly the same. You are just 1 row ahead. Okay, so now if you are starting on the row with the loops, again, make sure that your that the last row of the V-stitch, so when you look at it, you pick it up like this, okay? So you can see that the puff stitch is on the right and the double crochet is on the left. Again, just so that we have the correct side of the pattern. Okay, so we are going to make a slip knot. Okay, I'll leave a little longer tail to hide. So we are going to connect at the very, very bottom of the sleeve, right in the middle somewhere. And we chain 2. 1 and 2. Now we're gonna make the first row on the outside or the good side of the sleeve. Okay, so now we want to make 1 double crochet, okay, somewhere here. So this is a double crochet where we have connected. You want to make one just here, just so you don't have a hole before your first V-stitch. You're gonna yarn over and just make 1 double crochet, just like that. And then exactly where your V-stitch is, or your first loop that you can actually see, you start your usual pattern of V-stitches. A puff stitch. Now I'm going to take this out, it's going to be in my way. Puff stitch, chain 1, double crochet, and just like that, keep going until you get to your next stitch marker. And I usually, what I do is, once I take one of the stitch markers out, I mark that very first row, so it's easier for me to count the rows if I need to for the other sleeve. Okay, so I'm just gonna put it in, and then I will be able to count it from here, that this was my first row. Okay, so keep going. I'll see you at the other side. Okay, so I'm here at the other stitch marker. I'm gonna take this out. I'm gonna make my last V-stitch into that chain space. Sorry. Chain 1, double crochet, and to finish again, so we don't leave a big hole right here, we're just gonna make a double crochet somewhere in here, just let's see, right here, just to cover up that hole. And we slip stitch under or into the chain 2 where we have started. I usually just do it under it, like that. Now we're gonna chain 2 and we're going to turn. We're gonna find the next chain 1 space from the V-stitch, so this one right here, this is the double crochet. We're just gonna skip over that double crochet, it was just a filling. So we're gonna go in there, single crochet, 1, 2, 3 chains, single crochet, single crochet, chain 3, single crochet. So keep going, I'll see you at the end of this row. Okay, so at this point, this is my last V-stitch on the sleeve, so I'm just gonna single crochet, chain 3, single crochet, and make sure that you skip over that double crochet there, okay? This is just there to fill in for the last row. Then find your chain 2 where you have started, and under it, slip stitch. Okay, so right from here, both are gonna be the same. We're just gonna repeat the 2 rows until we need to do a little bit of decreasing, which is a little bit later on. Okay, so just to remind, we're going to start with chaining 2, and we turn, and we have our loops. Each loop gets a V-stitch. So start with a puff stitch, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, and just like that into each loop all the way around. Okay, so this is my last V-stitch. I'm gonna slip stitch under the chain 2. I'm going to chain 2 and turn, and just start the loop row into each chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 3, single crochet. Very simple. So then you use every chain 1 space. When you make the last loop, you're just gonna slip stitch under that chain 2, just like that, and then you start the with chaining 2 and the V-stitch row. So very simple. It's pretty much exactly what we have done here, only we are connecting it into a circle. Okay, so it's fairly simple for now. Okay, so in about halfway, when you make the sleeve, okay, so in about halfway length, we want to do a decrease. Okay, so you can see this little belly here. Okay, so this is where the decrease is. So you want either halfway approximately, okay, or a little bit earlier. It doesn't really matter. Whenever you start doing it, I usually just try to get to the half of the sleeve and then I do the decrease. Okay, so let's see sleeve length. Okay, so 15 centimeters, 16, 17 and a half, or 18 and a half. Now this one is 6 to 9 months, so approximately, let's say 18 centimeters is the full length of the sleeve. So I'm going to divide that into 2, about 9 centimeters in length. Okay, so when I crochet, 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 keep repeating these 2 rows, and from the armhole, measuring from the armhole, when I get to about 9 centimeters in length, or a little bit shorter, approximately here somewhere, I'm gonna do the decrease. Now we want to do a decrease when we're making the V-stitch row. Okay, so when you crochet, you want to end with a loop, with the loops here, and then we'll do the decrease in the next row. Okay, so keep going until you are about halfway through the length of the sleeve. At this point, I am about halfway through the length of the sleeve, so I'm at 9 centimeters. The full length is supposed to be approximately 18 and a half, and then plus another 3-4 centimeters for the roll back. Okay, so halfway through, we have the last row is the row of loops, and we're going to do decreasing. Okay, so we start with chaining 2 and then we turn. Okay, so we're starting with the row of V-stitches. So we're gonna yarn over, go into the first loop, catch our yarn, pull it out. So we started as a double crochet. We're gonna yarn over and pull through 2 loops and stop. This is actually our decrease. We are decreasing by 1 V-stitch. Then we have 2 loops on the hook. We're gonna leave them for now. And then the next one, we start as a normal V-stitch, so a puff stitch. In, pull, yarn over, pull out, so this is the puff stitch. Yarn over, pull through all the loops apart from the last one. Yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. Then you're gonna chain 1 and make a double crochet into that same loop. Okay, so we crochet that double crochet with the puff stitch. Okay, I'm going to show you one more time. You yarn over, go into the first loop, catch your yarn, pull it out, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2 and stop. Then you start your puff stitch, you yarn over, go in, pull it out 1, yarn over, go in, pull it out 2, yarn over, pull through all of the loops apart from the last one, yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops, chain 1, double crochet, and the rest is as normal, just the V-stitches. So keep going. Okay, finish this row as normal, slip stitch under the chain 2, start the next row as normal, and I'm gonna see you right here where we did the decrease. Okay, so I'm finishing the row with the loops, and this is the last chain 1 space, and this is the decrease. So I'm gonna completely skip over this and slip stitch under the chain 2, and here we go, we have 1 decrease. We're gonna chain 2 to start the row, the next row. Now grab a stitch marker and mark that row underneath with a V-stitch, just so that you know which row you started doing the decreasing on. So when you're making the next the other sleeve, it will be easier to figure out, so you don't have to remember this. Okay, so the next decrease, so we did 1, and now we're gonna do a second one. Now we did this in the beginning of the row with the V-stitches. The second one is going to be at the end of the row, okay? So in the last 2 loops. So start as usual and just go on until you have 2 loops left, okay? So just normal around until you have 2 loops left. Okay, so 2 loops left. We start the first one as normal, full puff stitch and chain 1. Now we're gonna start a double crochet. Halfway through we stop. We yarn over, go into the last loop, pull the yarn out. We have 4 loops on our hook. We're gonna yarn over, pull through 2 loops. I'm gonna yarn over and pull through all of the loops that is left. Again, we have crocheted the 2 double crochets together, and this loop is completely gone, so a decrease. Then we're gonna slip stitch under the chain 2, chain 2 again, and turn. And we're done with the decreasing, so from now on, you're gonna just find the next chain 1 space and make your loops as normal. You can do another decrease if you want to, if it still feels quite wide, but you don't want to do too many of them because they're quite noticeable, okay? Now you can see right here, you can really see where the decrease was, but once you actually roll back the sleeve, it actually looks nice. Okay, so like I said, from now on, it is just the repeat of those 2 rows until you reach the length of the sleeve, the full length. So sleeve length, okay, so 15, 16, 17 and a half or 18 and a half centimeters. So you measure from the armhole down. I am at 13. At 17 and a half is going to be the full length, and then I want to give it about 4 centimeters extra to roll it back. So you can see it on this sleeve. Okay, so it's about 17 and a half centimeters. Well, 17, it depends on how you roll it back, okay? And then if you roll it back down, it becomes much longer at 21. So about 3.5, 4.5 centimeters, okay? So keep going with these 2 rows, and I will see you at the very end. We'll see how we finish off the sleeve. So here I have finished my sleeve. Okay, so 17.5 centimeters. This is the length of the actual sleeve, how long it has to be, and then extra 4.5 centimeters. Okay, and I finish for girls, I finish on the loop row, just so it matches the bottom of the cardigan. Okay, so if you're done, you're making the girls cardigan, and you are done, you can just chain 1 and cut off your yarn. Now I will keep it like that for the moment. I will need it to show something on the boys cardigan. Okay, so for the boys cardigan, the ending of the sleeve, okay? So you want to finish, now it's not necessary, but I want to finish it with a crab stitch, just so it matches when I'll do the edging all the way around the cardigan, okay? So first of all, what you need to do, if you finish with a V-stitch row, okay, so we're gonna go around with single crochets. Now every V-stitch, so this is how we're gonna do it, okay? So you're gonna make 3 single crochets in one V-stitch, and then 2 single crochets. 3 single crochets, 2 single crochets. We kind of want it to stay the same. If we make all the 3 single crochets into each, it's gonna get wider, okay? Now if you have the length and you have finished on the loop row, you have to do the same thing. You want a straight edge here. So you're gonna put 3 single crochets in one loop, 2 single crochets like under the chains. Let me show you quickly, just so that you get it nice and straight. So you're gonna chain and then start with 2 single crochets like that, and then 3 into the next one. 1, 2, and 3. Then 2, 1 and 2, and then 3. Okay, just so that you have a straight edge around to do the crab stitch. Okay, now we're gonna do the same thing on this one. Okay, so if you're doing the single crochets on the V-stitch, you want to do it from the inside like this, okay? So you chain 1 and then you do 3 single crochets into the first V-stitch. So 1, 2, and 3, and then 2 single crochets into the next one. 1 and 2, and then again 3, so 1, 2, 3. And then 2. 1 and 2, and just like that all the way around. It doesn't matter how many single crochets you have at the end of this row, so keep going. I'll see you after you finish it. Once you finish, you want to slip stitch into the first stitch. You want to chain 1, and now we're gonna do this crab stitch, okay? So if you're used to doing the crab stitch backwards, just go on and do it. Now I do it going forward. I think it's much faster and easier. So this is how I do it. I go into the stitch, into the next one. I catch my yarn and pull it out. I have 2 loops on my hook, and I just make a twist. Yarn over and pull through. Into the next stitch, yarn over, pull it out, 2 loops on your hook, and I just completely make a twist, yarn over and pull through. Next one. And just like that, I just find it easier. If you're used to going backwards and doing it that way, you can absolutely do it, no problem at all. And just like that, finish off the row with a crab stitch. Okay, all the way around. Okay, so after you make the last crab stitch, slip stitch, chain 1, cut your yarn, and hide the tail. Okay. Just like that. And now you most likely need to do the second sleeve, so it has to be the exact same thing, okay? Keep your stitch markers if you need them. It is much easier to do when you can actually see where you did one. I know that I started right here, and I can count the number of rows that I need, and I know that I started doing my decreases on this row. So it was decrease and decrease and then the rest. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to roll this back. I'm going to roll the other one back. And this is, well, I do have a hood almost finished on this one. Okay, so sleeves like that, and sleeves like this. And we're gonna start on the hood. Okay, so the hood is fairly easy to make. It is very simple, similar to what we have done here. First of all, grab 2 stitch markers. Okay, so you have your cardigan laying down flat. You want to find those loops at the back. Right here you see the corner ones. So this one, or you can see that there is an increase in them. Okay, so like that. Okay, so one and the other one as well. We need to do a little bit of increasing so it is wider. To start, grab your yarn, make a slip knot. We're going to connect right here next to the very first loop in the very edge. And now we want the edge of the hood to be a little bit looser than here. So we're going to start with chaining 3 instead of chaining 2. 1, 2, and 3. So that is the only difference. You actually chain 3 when you're doing the V-stitch row. Other than that, is going to be starting and finishing exactly the same. Then into each of the loops, you just make the normal V-stitch with the puff stitch in the beginning. Okay, so we're using the other side of the loops of the starting chain. And just like that, as normal pattern, keep going until you get to the stitch marker. Once you get to the marked loop, I'm going to take this out. We're going to do an increase right here. So make a puff stitch, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1 and a puff stitch. Okay, so just like that. So we have puff stitch, double crochet and puff stitch with a chain in between. The rest is normal until you get to the other stitch marker. Again, stitch marker out, puff stitch, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1 and a puff stitch, all into that same loop. So we do an increase, and then again continue as normal to the end of the row, and you finish the row with a double crochet somewhere at the very edge, wherever you can find a little spot. I'm gonna put it right here. Then you chain 2 and turn, and you make your normal loops. Okay, so keep going with the loops until you get to that place with the increases. When you get to the increase, it is actually as normal. You just have to use each of the chain 1 space to make a loop. That way it is going to increase. Okay, so that is 1, and right into the other one as well. And then just continue as normal. Remember to do the same thing on the other increase right here, and I will see you at the end of the row. And we finish with a half double crochet into the top of that chain 3. Again, we start with chaining 3. We just want this side of the hood to be a little bit looser, okay? So that's why we're chaining 3. Okay, so first of all, now we're going to measure the width of the hood. We did a little bit of increase, so you want to place it like this, okay? So this is the front, put them together like this, and you want to measure from the back to the front, the length, okay? So this is the width of the hood. So 18, 20, 21 centimeters. So I need 21 centimeters right here. Okay, let's see. Now I'm gonna measure. Okay, from the back to the front, I am at 20. I want another 1 centimeter. So if you don't need any extra length, you just keep going with the 2 normal rows, no more increasing for you until you get to the very top. Now if you need another increase or 2, we're gonna go slowly with increasing, okay? And we're just gonna do 1 increase at the kind of at the very back of the hood, whichever loop, just the closest one to the very edge. So this one looks, or sorry, to the very middle of the back here, okay? So this one looks for me. So this is where I'm going to do an increase. So chain 3 and start the row as normal until you get to that stitch marker if you actually need to do another increase. And the increase is the same as we have done in the row of V-stitches before, only this time it's only 1. We want to go slower so we don't get it way too wide, much wider than we need it to be. Okay? And that is an increase. In the next row I'm going to have a loop here and a loop here instead of 1. And then you finish as usual. So this is what you want to do until you get to that width that you need. You might have to do it maybe 1 more time, maybe even 2 times. It really depends on the yarn and the hand that, you know, if you're a tighter crocheter, you might need another 1 or 2 increases, or this might be enough. Now, one thing I want to say is after you do an increase, you kind of need to give it a couple of rows for it to fully expand, for it to fully show the everything that it added to the length, okay? Just because you did an increase right here, at the end of this row, if you measure, it will not look like it has actually increased, okay? It needs just a row or 2 to fully expand the pattern. Okay, so remember, you do this as long as you need for the width of the hood to get to this, or it can be a little bit bigger. I probably wouldn't go for smaller because we do need to have a little space to give it that roll back, okay? So keep making these 2 rows now until you get to the full length of the hood. Now this is the hood height, okay? So from where we have started, so from this row right here up. So hood height 19, 20, 22 and 23 centimeters. For 6 to 9 months that I'm making, I'm gonna go for 22 or more. It can be higher than that, okay? So this is the row, you can see the increase, and this is how I will measure. I am at 4 centimeters. I need to go repeating these 2 rows until I am at 22 for it to be high enough for the baby's head. Okay, so keep going, do the increases if you need, keep measuring your width of the hood. Once you get to where you need to be, you stop increasing, okay, and then just keep going, and I will see you at the top and we will sew it together. So I have finished my hood. My hood measures, so from the row that I started, it's 22 centimeters plus I'm gonna have a single crochet row on top. Let's see, hood height 22. So you want this measurement or a little bit bigger. You definitely don't want your hood to be any shorter than this. Okay, so you might have finished on the loop row or on the V-stitch row, it doesn't matter. It's very similar. Okay, so what we want to do, we want to put 3 single crochets in the first 3 loops or V-stitches and 3 single crochets in the last 3. Okay, the rest around here gets 2 single crochets, so it's not, it is so it doesn't get like longer at the top. So you're gonna start with chaining 2. Okay, then you're gonna turn and start with 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. So that's the first one. The second one, 1, 2, 3, and the third one, 1, 2, and 3. And the rest are just 2 single crochets. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and just like that, keep going all the way around until you have 3 loops left. And like I said, it is the same for the V-stitch. Okay, so you're gonna chain 1 actually and single crochet into the very first stitch, and then make 3 stitches in the first 3 V-stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3. The rest until you have 3 V-stitches left is 2 single crochets. So I'm just gonna put it here. 1, 2. So 1, 2. I completely skip over that chain 1. 1, 2, and just keep going like that all the way to the other side. And then the last 3, again 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and where you had the loops, you finish with a half double crochet. Where you had the V-stitches, you just finish with a single crochet. And if you look now, if you put the hood together, okay, this is what you have. You have this little closing in there. Okay, so it didn't get any wider. Okay, so now you want to chain 1 and cut your yarn, leave a long piece. Now I'm running out, my skein is finishing, so this is how much I have. Hopefully this is enough to sew up the top of the hood. I might just get another piece if I need to. Okay, so once you have all of that done, like I said, leave long enough piece or tail to sew it up. Okay, so this is the outside of my hood, or the good side. So this would be the inside. So I'm gonna turn this out. So I am sewing looking at the inside of the hood, and I'm just gonna match stitches, and I'll just whip stitch just like that, and next stitch and next stitch. And just like that, all the way to the end here. So here I am at the very, very end, and you need to make a knot. So I'm gonna hold on to this, just go under that last stitch, or the last kind of stitch that you have made. I'm gonna hold this loop, go into that with my needle, and I'm gonna pull tight. You can go twice if you want a tighter knot at the end, but I think that holds well. And then just hide it a bit in between the stitches, like this, and cut your yarn. And pull that out the other way, and this is how it looks. Okay, like this. It's gonna be like that. Okay, so next up is the edging around and buttonholes. Okay, so to start the edging, first of all, we need a few stitch markers, and we need to mark out the places where we are going to have our buttons. Now, for the girls' cardigan, okay, I'm gonna have buttons on this side, so buttonholes under my left hand. Okay, so I'll probably have 3. You don't want to put the top one too close to where the hood starts. You kind of want to go maybe 3 rows down. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 at the bottom of the 3rd row, or even lower. And then I'm gonna skip this and this. I'm gonna have a button here, and then I'm gonna skip this, and I'll have a button here. Yes, I think this is gonna be okay. I might just move a little bit down. Like this. Okay, so this is better. So I have my 3 places where I want my buttons. Now for the boys' cardigans, I'm gonna have buttonholes on the other side. So you don't have to do this, but it's just supposed to be like that. So on this side for boys, so the first one around here somewhere, and I'm only going to have 2 for the boys, and another one around here somewhere. So 2, quite close enough, maybe a little bit down, like this. Okay, so once you have your buttons, your stitch markers in the places where the buttons are going to be, we're going to start. The first row is very simple. It is just single crochets until you get to the buttonhole. Make sure you have the buttons with you so that you can adapt the size of the buttonhole to the size of your button. Okay, so you want to start from this side, okay, at the bottom under your right hand. So attach it as low down as you can. I'm gonna chain 1 and turn. So you're going to do this from the inside, and just make as many single crochets as you can without stretching it out. Okay, just find places. So I probably do like 2 single crochets where the chains are. It's very bright. So into this, and then a single crochet where the loop rows are. Just try to make them nice and straight so that they are spaced equally around. Okay, like that. And once you get to that hood, you want to be fairly generous there. Okay, you don't want to make it too tight there. Okay, just like that. So you want to be quite generous with the single crochets, because we're going to roll back that hood, so we want enough space. We don't want this to be tighter than the actual hood, okay? So it doesn't pull on the pull it down. Okay, so keep going until you get to your first stitch marker. For me, it's going to be the boys' cardigan. Okay, so once you get to that stitch marker, so you want to do your buttonhole over there. Grab the button, whatever one you have, okay, and just try chaining a few. I'll try with chaining 2 and skipping a little bit of space, okay. So here it is, and then you want to check if that button is going through. Now you don't want it to be too loose. It's okay with toggle buttons, but let's say with round buttons you want it to be a little bit tight so they don't keep opening, okay. So this one is absolutely perfect. I just chained 2 and skipped a bit of space. If you need it bigger, you can chain 3 and leave a bit more space. Just adjust this to the size of the button, and then I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so again I am at the stitch marker. I'm gonna do the same thing as I did here. I chain 2 and I'm gonna skip a little bit of space like this and check. Fantastic. Okay, so I do have my 2 buttonholes, and then the rest is just 1 single crochet until you finish at the other side, okay. And let me get to those stitch markers for the girls. It's actually the same. I'll just show it just in case. Okay, and like I said, it's pretty much the same for the girls. Once you get to that stitch marker, you're gonna chain whatever and skip a little bit of space and single crochet, and then just make sure to check if the button actually fits like nicely, okay. So it's tight enough, it won't be opening, so I'm happy with this. So I'm just chaining 2 and then just continue on. Now if you have more than 2 buttons, you kind of want to try and get the same number of single crochets in between the buttonholes. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna chain 2, skip a little bit of space, single crochet. Again, I'm gonna make sure that it fits. It does. So I had 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna try to do the same thing until the next buttonhole. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Perfect. Chain 2, skip a little bit of space, single crochet, and then I don't need to count anymore. Okay, so I have my buttonholes just like that. Okay, they're kind of small, but it will be enough. And then just finish to the bottom of the cardigan. Okay, so the next part is the same for everyone. We're just gonna cover this whole edge with crab stitch. Now for girls, it is only the front, the hood, and the other front. Now for boys, I'm gonna do it at the bottom as well. Okay, the crab stitch, just to make it a little bit thicker at the bottom, just so it has a bit of more of a finished look. Okay, so I have said that before. I make my crab stitch going forward. Now if you're used to do it going backwards, as it should be because it's a crab stitch, then just do it from here. Okay, I can't even I think it's back like this and single crochet, isn't it? I can't even remember, to be honest. I always make it going forward, so I'm gonna turn around. And it's fairly simple, okay? So you go into the next stitch. You started like a single crochet, okay? So you have 2 loops on the hook, okay? Then you're gonna turn the hook all the way around, grab your yarn and pull it through. Into the next stitch, pull out your yarn, and just turn it from the back all the way around like this and pull through. In, catch, turn, pull, just like that. You turn it all the way around until it's back in that same place and pull through, and you have your crab stitch. So you want to keep going like that. Now if you find it hard to pull through, that means you're making them a little bit tight, okay? So just try to have them a little bit looser. So keep going. I will see you where the chains are for the buttonholes. Okay, so here are my buttonholes and my 2 chains. Now I'm gonna make a crab stitch into each of that chain. So I'm gonna go in, pull it out. It might look a little tight, but it will be easier to find those buttonholes after you do that, okay? And then after, just as normal. So you treat every chain that you have made as a normal stitch for a crab stitch. Okay, so you can see. It's so much easier to see it now. And the same with all the other ones. Okay, again my buttonhole. I have my 2 chains there. The first one is really small, so I have to really get in there. And the second one, done. And then just keep going as normal. Okay, so finish this off. Okay, I will see you when I have the boys' cardigan done to this point. Okay, once you have your girls' cardigan done all around to the other side, once you do your last crab stitch, you can just slip stitch down to the very bottom, as to closest to the bottom as you can, chain 1, cut your yarn and hide your tails. Okay, so for the boys' cardigan I will keep going at the bottom, and I will make 1 crab stitch into each stitch, even into the chain 1. Now that will kind of stretch out the bottom a little bit. It's gonna be longer, but I do like that. Now if you don't want the bottom to be stretched out, you can just skip a few stitches maybe every 10th stitch or something, or just a few stitches around. That will not stretch it that much then. So just like that. I'll just keep going. For the whole bottom all the way to here. Okay, so all done. Now once you finish, once you make your last crab stitch, you can just slip stitch, chain 1 and cut your yarn. Now I'm gonna quickly hide that tail. Just in between the stitches. Like that. And that is all done. Now I do have a few more a few more tails to do. Let's have a little quick look. So as you can see, the boys' cardigan, it's gone a little bit wider at the bottom, but it's gonna look great once you put those buttons in. Okay, so next step, we hide the tails, put the buttons in, and then we will do the little ears. Okay, so next up are the little ears. If you want to make them. Now I will make it in 3 colors. If you're just making it in 1 color, you don't have to cut your yarn after each row, just chain 1 and turn around. Okay, so to start, grab your yarn, your hook, and make a magic circle. So this is how I do it. I just twist my yarn around my 2 fingers and I cross it at the bottom, okay, like this. Then I turn my hook in, catch the yarn behind it and pull it out, then carefully take it off and chain 2. Okay, so this is the start. Now we're gonna make 7 puff stitches with a chain 1 in between them. So yarn over in to the very middle, into the very middle. Oh, I made it very loose. I'll try it again. And chain 1. This is 1, chain 1. That's 2, chain 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now after the last one, you don't chain 1 anymore, you just make a double crochet. Now if you're doing the same color, you're gonna just chain 1 and turn and start the next row. Now I'm changing color, so I'm gonna chain 1 and cut my yarn and leave a slightly longer tail and pull that out, okay, and pull on the magic circle on the tail there to close it like this. Okay, I'm changing colors. Slip knot. I'm gonna find that very first stitch, okay, so where you have ended, you're gonna turn around, find that very first stitch, that's where the tail is, where you finished. I'm gonna pull that out, chain 1 and single crochet back into that same stitch, so 1. Now as I'm going, I'm gonna crochet over the tails. You can hide them later if you want. I prefer to just hide them. So single crochet, then single crochet into the stitch above the puff stitch and single crochet into the chain 1 space in between, into the puff stitch and into the chain in between, puff stitch, and just like that, and you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and one more, 14 single crochets. Now if you're not changing colors, you can just chain 1 and start the crab stitch. Now I want to start the crab stitch on this side because I prefer the single crochets looking like this. So I want this to be the good side of my ear, so I'll start it right there. I'm gonna chain 1 and cut my yarn. I'll grab my main color, make a slip knot, and like I said, I'm gonna start it on this side. Okay, so to start crab stitch, join your yarn or chain 1 if you're not changing colors, okay, then you chain 1 and start your crab stitch. I'm gonna start it right into the very first stitch, and each stitch gets a crab stitch. So you should have 14. And I'm gonna crochet over this tail. And into the very last one. Okay, so crab stitch. Now we want to make a row of single crochets at the bottom, but we have this tail from the magic circle, which has no knot, and it can actually open up, so we need to put a knot at the back first. So I'm just going to do it like this. And I'm gonna go in and pull, and then I'll just hide it a little bit in between the stitches. Cut it off, and just single crochets at the bottom. See as many as you can make, just to have the same color bottom of the ear as the actual hood. And my last single crochet. I'm gonna slip stitch somewhere where the first crab stitch is, chain one and cut your yarn. Leave enough tail to sew it on. And this is our little ear. Now I'm just gonna, I have crocheted over all of these tails. I'm just gonna give them a little pull just to put them into place like this, and I'll just cut them off. And just like that, we have our ears. Now you need to make a second one of those. Okay, and I'll quickly show you how I sew them on. Okay, so just place them wherever you want them to be. I just want to have a little, I rolled the hood back, and I want the ears to be right behind it. So approximately here somewhere, this one. And make sure that you have the corners sewn on very well. And then just stitch through. Just like that, all done. I'll hide it a little bit under. That's it, and exactly the same thing with the other one. Now I'm gonna leave this tail for later. I will need this. And the other one, I'm gonna try to match it. Okay, so approximately here. A little bit like this, and Now don't worry if they are not coming out when you're sewing them on, if they are not very perfect. It is handmade. It's really hard to get them the exact, the perfect spot on both sides. Just do your best. And here we go. Make a little knot. Hide it under, and that is done. Now again, if you have the tail, keep it. You kind of only need one anyways. So what I want to do with the tail is, so that hood is just like this, okay? It can keep falling down. So I'm gonna turn it back, and I will just give it a little stitch there, just to hold it in place, okay? So make sure you don't turn it back too much, just a few centimeters like this, and right in the middle underneath, I'll just right in the middle, and I'll catch a little bit on the hood, and I'll just make a small knot, and that's all. So just so it doesn't fall into the baby's eyes, and a little like this, and cut it off. All done. Okay, so we're pretty much done, unless you want to add something else to it. I will quickly sew on a little white bow up here. So give me 2 seconds and I will show you how my hood is turned out to look. Okay, and so here we are. I am all finished. I have a little bow here, and this is how it looks finished. And this is the other one, the little one. Let me see, like that. Cute as a button. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope everything was clear, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.